Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels, and yes, we are going to be getting back to Medicaid, and yes, we're going to be still covering eligibility for non-citizens because, as I've already stated, in spite of the bill passing, I want people to understand the bill that is going to break so many individuals who are the working poor, how it was sold to the American public is a lie. We're going to be going over a little bit more in detail all of that, and will probably be more than just a couple of videos on the topic. But first, brief disclaimer. Throughout the entirety of this Medicaid series, every single bit of documentation that you see is going to also be available for you right there in the description box along with some helpful labels. So should you like to deep dive the source information yourself, you'll absolutely be able to do so. Trigger warnings, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. I do use profanity, and we speak on some dark subjects like the Judge Rothberg Educational Center, Kennecook Camp, Tobin World, and Agape Boarding School for Boys. So if you have a child that is watching this channel that is 16 or younger, parental supervision is very much advised. Political trigger warning. If you are gung-ho MAGA, or you are gung-ho on the left, I am neither one of these things. Which means, as we go throughout the mini-series we are currently juggling on this channel, more than likely I am probably going to say something that is going to offend you. If you are unable to handle that like an adult, then this is probably not the channel for you. We welcome healthy debate based off the facts at hand. We do not support ad hominem attacks like, well, you just have Trump derangement syndrome, because first of all, that is not a proper answer for anyone to give in the middle of any kind of debate. It just tells me you can't debate on the facts, so you automatically resort to name calling like we are all back in middle school again. Nobody needs that. Nobody has time for that. Alright? Leave high school back in high school. Leave middle school back in middle school. No ad hominem attacks. No leading questions about, well, their family should pick up the slack. You know nothing about what is the family situation for multiple disabled and elderly folk all over the United States. You do not know the family situation for individuals who have low-paying jobs just trying to survive. Some of them have 2 to 3 jobs and they're still not making it and live underneath the poverty line. It is none of your business. It's a leading question and you all know it. And I will not tolerate it on this channel. If you cannot debate on the facts and be civil and fair with one another, you will be blocked from the channel and your comment removed. This is your only warning on this topic. Alright? Excellent. Alright, folks, let's go in. Some of this we've already read, but we're going to be reading through it again because I kind of want to go over it as a cohesive whole as we kind of split time between this and went into a little bit more spotlight documentation on the last video. So, we're going to start with Citizenship and Alien Status, known as MHF. IN number 54, that's from July the 21st, 2009. Some corresponding dates as well from 2007 and 2006. And as always, you'll find the link to this particular document in the description box. if you should want to click on the links and go any further into the deep diving. And yes, we are using the Missouri state government website for this because, A, that's where I live. I'm unafraid to say where I live because, A, I have a tech guru for a roommate. We have multiple VPNs and multiple networks, so I'm not afraid. But even if it were, fuck around and find out. I got a whole lot of held back 13 years customer service and sales service call center rage in me. Just dying for a way to let off steam. So, there's that too. Let me get back to the topic here. The Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act, or also known as PRWORA of 1996, changed eligibility for individuals who are not citizens of the United States. MoHealthNet eligibility for aliens, which is our name for Medicaid out here, is based on whether the alien is qualified or non-qualified, and the alien's state of entry into the United States. Now, double check, those of you on Medicaid, what your state calls Medicaid, because a lot of individuals don't realize, because some states have renamed their Medicaid services into another name, that they're going to be losing their services because of this bill. So make sure that at the very least they go ahead and double check that so they can be prepared. Section 6036 of the Deficit Reduction Act of 2005 amended Section 1903 of the Social Security Act, requiring states to obtain satisfactory documentation of citizenship and identity prior to approving Medicaid benefits, effective July the 1st, 2006. Certain individuals are exempt from having to provide documentation of citizenship and identify. We already went over that for more information. And of course, refer to section 0110.020.01 for a complete list of acceptable documents to use as verification. We're going to go ahead and pull that up as a side real quick and go over that real quick. Alright, so let's go here. Okay, the eligibility specialist as an employee of the Family Support Division has the responsibility of requesting necessary verification and recording information in a case record that clearly documents all eligibility requirements for a program are met, or that one or more requirements are not met and ineligibility exists. Individuals applying for or receiving assistance have the responsibility to provide information to access to the information needed for determining eligibility both initially and on a continuing basis. Alright, we're going to bypass the note. Oh, no, we better read the note. If the applicant signs release form for FSD to have access to the information needed for determining eligibility, but the source will not provide the information requested to the FSD, requires payment for the response, or requires a company-specific form, inform the applicant participant that they must obtain the information from the source directly. It is the applicant participant's authorized representatives and or legal representatives' responsibility to provide the FSD with all information requiring eligibility units, income, and circumstances at the time of the initial application and ongoing to determine eligibility. It is the eligibility specialist's responsibility to inform the applicant participant what information is needed. Ensure the request for information FA 325 or IM 31A form clearly identifies the documentation that must be provided. So that is for them to make sure that the individual knows what documentation that they'll need, whether citizen or non-citizen. Let me go ahead and continue here. An Applicant must be given at least 10 days to supply necessary information per request. A MoHealthNet for the age, blind, and disabled MHABD application may be rejected after 2 requests for information FA 325 or IM 31A forms. When the first written request expires, a second request for information, which is known as an FA 325 form, is automatically generated by FAMUS, allowing an additional 10 days to return requested information. The second FA 325, shown as request 2, can be viewed or printed from document Q. If FAMUS fails to generate the second request, the eligibility specialist should do so, following the user guide instructions for editing and adding text to the FA 325. Not for you guys. For active cases, if the participant refuses to or fails to provide the necessary information to establish continuing eligibility within 10 days, authorize an adverse action to close in FAMUS or send an adverse action notice IM80 form to close. Alright, questionable documentation or other verification. The agency is not required to accept questionable documentation or other questionable verification. If the applicant, participant, authorized representative, or legal representative provides documentation or other verification that appears to be inaccurate, incomplete, inconsistent, inauthentic, or not true, send a request for information form, an FA 325 or IM 31A, to the participant and or their legal guardian, conservator, or authorized representative, requesting the clarifying additional information needed. Allow 10 days for the applicant, participant, legal guardian, conservator, or authorized representative to provide information needed to determine eligibility. So if you noticed, they need their documentation. Your paperwork is going to have paperwork. I noticed because I have participated and been reevaluated on multiple occasions back when I was younger. So not only did I have to bring my Accorder file to those meetings, but I also had to sign a nice pile of paperwork every time, to the point that my wrist doesn't even hurt, even if it's a giant stack of paperwork anymore. It's just muscle memory at this point. Alright, we are going to go ahead and go down here a little bit. We're going to read a few more things here. Age relationship. Verification of age and relationship of a child and their parent caretaker should be obtained by viewing IBTH for all applicants born in Missouri. It is appropriate to accept applicant's statement unless questionable for anyone born outside Missouri. For programs that require a person to be of a certain age, over 18, 21, under 21, under 65, over 65, accept the claimant's statement unless questionable. Verification of the Social Security number by the system is acceptable verification of age. If age is a critical factor of eligibility for a program and the claimant's statement is questionable, further documentation must be obtained. Documents of almost any kind which state the age of the claimant at a given date may be accepted as verification, provided they appear to be authentic. Social Security number. This requirement applies only to those persons for whom health care coverage or cash assistance is being requested or received. It does not apply to parents, children, or a spouse, including the assistance group for whom coverage has not been requested. Obtain a copy of the Social Security card for all persons for whom coverage is requested at the time of initial application whenever possible. If a card is not available but number is known, accept the applicant's statement and enter the Social Security number into the SUPD system. If the number is correct, it will be verified by the system. It is only necessary to obtain further verification if the system match returns an indicator other than V. For persons requesting coverage who do not have a Social Security number. This is important. Pay attention. proof of application for a Social Security number must be obtained prior to the individual's approval. If the IBTH screen indicates a Social Security number was requested, further verification is not required. Do not deny or delay approval pending issuance of a Social Security number once the application for the Social Security number has been completed. In other words, if you don't have one, but you can show that you've already applied for one, you still should be okay. But if you're an illegal who's not tried to do things the legal way and tried to set up to receive a Social Security number, you're not getting much further after that. So this whole idea that it is so easy to game the system and get on Medicaid if you're an illegal is completely batshit insane. Okay? These are not serious people that we're dealing with. We are losing health care for millions of Americans by politicians who are not serious in any way, shape, or form. Our country is literally being run by the circus right now. I apologize for the circus to the analogy because you all don't deserve to be compared to that. Just saying. Citizenship alien status. Alright, Section 6036 of the Deficit Reduction Act of 2005 amended Section 1903 of the Social Security Act, effective July the 1st, 2006, to require states to obtain satisfactory documentation of citizenship and identity prior to approving Medicaid benefits. Did you hear that? You want to hear it again? Let me say it again. Section 6036 of the Deficit Reduction Act of 2005 amended Section 1903 of the Social Security Act, effective July the 1st, 2006, to require states to obtain satisfactory documentation of citizenship prior to approving Medicaid benefits. In other words, this was amended during the Bush administration. And during that administration, they put this ad in here specifically to let individuals know that you can't provide satisfying documentation of citizenship, protected status, or you're a non-citizen but you're legal, right? You have to do that or you can't use any of these benefit programs. So Trump's saying, but we're using tax dollars, it's giving illegals health care through Medicaid funding. It's absolutely a lie. It's a lie. If you cannot prove that you are a legal non-citizen that is eligible underneath all the other criteria in order to receive Medicaid, you're not getting Medicaid. Where do people get this? In the name of God, why have we as a people become so damn lazy that we are not willing to fact check our politicians? Are you all for real right now? We are being ran by the clown show. Right now is not the point in time to blindly believe whatever our politicians are telling you. You gotta deep dive. You gotta double check. Because more often than not, they're telling a lie. And yes, I do mean that. For both sides. Okay? Just saying. Section 211 of the Children's Health Insurance Program Reauthorization Act, also known as CHIP-RA, signed February the 4th, 2009, amended Section 1903X of the Social Security Act. The law allows an individual declaring to be a citizen or national of the United States who is required to present documentary evidence of citizenship or nationality a reasonable opportunity to present the documentation. A reasonable opportunity is defined as 90 days from the date of approval. So, in other words, if you are in a situation that's an emergency and you need it now, you can get it sort of approval that hasn't gone all the way through, so that within a 90-day period the correct documentation can be provided. Now, what happens after that window? I think we all know, right? Right? If you're in a situation that's an emergency and you are in the hospital, that, let's say that you're on a respirator somewhere, then it has to be your relations that will come and provide that documentation, a representative, your lawyer, anything of that nature. So kind of a good idea to make sure that they have that information just in case. Per 42 CFR 435.407, presentation of evidence documentation for citizenship and identity is a one-time activity. Once a person's citizenship and identity has been verified and recorded in any family support division, income maintenance database, subsequent changes in eligibility should not require repeating the documentation unless later evidence raises a question of the person's citizenship. So what does that mean? The few times when I have been in between call center jobs and I've required to have some form of insurance, because obviously I need things like glasses, things of that nature,